everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Prabha.
How are you?
Hi, Prabha. How are you?
I'm good. You look great.
So do you.
I tried my best.
We all do, don't we?
I actually put on earrings after like a month because we've all been at home and I suddenly feel so powerful.
That's like me and my foundation. Same thing.
No, I gave up with makeup because listen, we don't have time for that. We don't want to see me fail with makeup.
I know, right? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. It's fine.
It's fine. It's okay.
We
We don't have to look
have
good.
Instagram filters.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, I feel like we're ready to start now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, sure. Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to the first episode of Influencing the Culture. Hope you're all doing great and safe and healthy and happy. My name is Prabha. I'm from the KCCI team and I will be moderating today's session.
Yay.
Saying it out loud, moderating sounds so formal, doesn't it?
I know. I always found like we are just gonna talk.
Yeah, we're just having a conversation.
So moderation is such a cold word for that.
Right? I thought so. Like just for emails, it sounds professional, but like actually saying it out loud, I'm like, moderating? Who am I? I'm not that person. But okay. Today we're joined by Riddhi Chakraborty, who's a senior writer and producer for Rolling Stone India and has produced content with the likes of ATEEZ, Sonia Shaday's Tiffany, EXO's Lay, BTS RM, VAV, Grey, Day 6. The list is endless and it's full of big names. Hi Riddhi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. Very kind intro. I really appreciate it.
No, we appreciate you being here. Like, this was such a big moment for me. No, honestly, because I still remember the first Rolling Stone India article I read about K-pop because it's just been growing steadily like over the years. And the first one I read was with RM, back when he still went by Rap Monster. It feels like a decade ago. Yeah. And I remember reading that and thinking, wow, RM from BTS really likes Tunak Tunak Tun, huh? Okay, good for him. Good for him.
Yeah, it was bizarre. Like sang it for me. And
no way.
And I didn't know how to process that. Oh, everyone's saying there's like an echo.
Is there?
Yeah. I can hear too. With my
Perhaps
voice, not with my voice, not on your.
Okay. Let me try removing my earphone.
Is it better now, guys?
Is it better? Guys, I think, I can't hear it anymore, so I think it is better.
Okay.
You can hear me, right?
But you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. It works perfect then. Okay. So just for everyone who's watching us right now, would you like to introduce yourself? Maybe say some nice things about you?
Oh my god. So my name is Riddhi and I'm senior writer and producer at Rolling Stone India. I basically interview like K-pop stars mostly for a living and K-R&B, K-hip-hop, all of that. I also interview, Indian artists, actors, pop culture figures, musicians, that as well. And I'm primarily what you'd call a features writer, where I like to focus on longer pieces. So like usually like if you've read my work, it's like pretty, detailed, even like the columns and stuff that I do. Like, so I'll take a little bit more time, but it'll be like really nice pieces you can dig into.
Okay, that's great. Actually, all of the questions that we received in anticipation for today were just about the specifics of your job.
Yeah.
So just like which is actually what we expected, to be honest, because it's so fascinating from the outside, like what you do.
Yeah.
Even if we I'm sure there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes that we don't personally know about, but just from like the outside, it amazing. Thank you so much for doing what you do. But just before we get into it, in layman's terms, can you just explain what you do and how you put like an interview together? So, how you approach your higher ups maybe at Rolling Stone, and then how you approach maybe the management companies And like after the interview's done, how would you put it together in an article format?
Okay.
Just, all of that jazz. Yeah.
Okay. So it works like it works in different ways depending on like whether the artist team approaches you first or whether you pitch it to the artist. Usually we will like if the journalist will start the process of pitching and the conversation with the artist team, whether it's them or us reaching out, and then we approach our editors once we have like a something solid where we can be like, okay, like this is a story that I can develop. So then I'll go to my editors and be like, okay, like I spoke to our RM's team, I spoke to BTS's team today, so like do you think we could do a story and schedule it for next month when they're having a comeback? So like we schedule that it'll come out like the next month. The conversation usually happens like maybe 2 weeks in advance. Sometimes it can happen like months in advance. Like with Day 6, I spoke to them last year in November, and the interview came out just now with this this album, with The Demon. But I spoke to them after they had done Entropy. So it really depends on like also what is trending even in our country and what really works best, because I think Day 6 really took off this year, not last year in India, which is quite amazing, good timing. So we also thought that let's time it accordingly and release interviews. But most of the time, I think the biggest like issue is locking in confirmations with Korean artists, because their teams tend not to respond for a really long time. So then you'll be like, okay, like I pitched this to my editor and now like they're not replying with like a date that I can do the interview, because I think they have a lot of bureaucracy, like levels that they have to approvals, right, that they have to get. So that takes a very, very long time. That's the most challenging part of it. And then like your editors will be like, where is that story that you talked about? Like, and I'm like, oh God. But but eventually when it works out, it is like really good. Like the conversations with the artists, it depends whether they speak English or not. So usually though there is an interpreter present, like almost like at all times, because it's just easier for the artist. They feel more comfortable. Yeah. Even I feel more comfortable. Because oh my God, like, if I like say something the artist doesn't understand, we're both just staring at each other. That's happened. So like it's so funny. That happened with Lay.
Has it? Oh my God.
Hilarious. Yeah.
Oh.
It was cute because he's so sweet.
But like Lay is such a nice personality in general, so I'm sure you wouldn't mind.
He didn't mind. I didn't mind. We were both just like, okay, like, and then he's very sweet. Like he'll repeat and be like, I didn't understand that. So I was like, okay. So then I'll like rethink the question in my head, like and make it maybe easier and like in the term of language, for the artist to understand. And then usually like you have an interpreter who can help you out with it. And once like I have all my answers and stuff, it depends on how good the answers are and how good the conversation was, like how the final piece will turn out. Because if an artist does get like a little bit more emotional or they open up, right, like about like a particular track or story, I think that makes for like a more like a longer piece, a more hard-hitting emotional piece. So, and that takes a little bit more time because I'll want to take my time and like make sure that everything that they conveyed comes clearly in the story, because I want you guys to feel as if you're in the room with us during that conversation. Like that's my style of writing. So like you can just imagine yourself sitting there maybe at that table and like having a conversation or listening in on this conversation with like me and the artist. So that's why I usually include what the surroundings look like, the expressions on their faces, so that you get like that mental image, So that's and then once I create that picture, then it goes to my editor for like like final checks and things like that, and then the social media team, they upload it finally. And we gotta like we get usually a list of tags that we need to like tag the artist, all that kind of stuff. That is the start to finish process of like maybe one story, like a longer story.
That sounds really complicated though.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's much more so once it's happening in real life, in real time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
But I mean, now that you've brought up interpreters and translation, I'll bring up a fan question now.
Yeah, sure.
Which is from Karuna Menon, who asked, as someone whose work is greatly facilitated by resources like interpretation and translation, how do you strike a balance between staying true to your own journalistic style while also ensuring that the essence of what has been conveyed through translation doesn't get lost?
is a
Big
really
question.
good question. I love that
It is a
question.
really good question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
excellent. I love it. My journalist
We
like
received some
tied up.
really good questions. I'm really proud. Yeah.
I want to throw this as an
Thanks,
artist at some
guys.
point. I'm gonna steal it. You know, I'm be like, oh, like let me like.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just kidding. But I think it's inevitable that things will get lost in translation. I feel like that's I think one of my biggest like I feel so sad about that because it's like I know like when I spoke to Pentagon, I knew, for example, that Huey had a lot more that he was adding on to the answers than the interpreter was also able to like translate back in English because you know some words in Korean don't exist in English
Yeah,
or
they
like
know.
any language like even in Hindi and all right it doesn't exist in English
Yeah.
and same like so it's very difficult because I think English a lot of time doesn't have the same like you know emotional sort of capacity to like capture what maybe like other Asian languages, especially Asian languages
Right.
are like
Right.
so emotional. We are very
They
emotional
are. They are.
people. Yeah, so like all our, like for example like you know like I think yeah, so but Huey was saying something about like the emotions that sort of went into the album that the band was facing while which went to the album,
Right.
and it was very difficult for him to convey that to me and for me to understand it. We just couldn't find the right words, so like I had to just do my best with that, you know. So it's like
Right.
a lot of it is up to your interpretation as well of what the artist
Mhm.
says, but like meaning it has to be what how much ever you can quote them. Like I can't like make something up out of thin air, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like whatever I can understand, that's why it's nice if you meet the artist because then you kind of like maybe through gestures and all understand what they're trying to convey. It's always better. But if it is, you know, like a written Q&A or something that they send in, sometimes it falls like a little short of that emotion, and I feel like even the artists sort of regret that. Even Dean I think felt that a little bit when I spoke to him. So there was like we both want to you know talk more, so that's why I'm trying to learn Korean now and hopefully that'll help, but I'm
Okay.
so far away from being that comfortable in conversation, right, in Korean. Like it can take
Get that
time.
completely. Yeah.
Yeah, so but it
I've
is.
been learning Korean for the last 2 years,
Oh damn
and
good.
it's not easy.
There you go. There was a
Yeah.
small lag. Yeah, yeah, so
Yeah.
like I was
I
saying
don't know.
like you were saying something just now, sorry.
No, you were talking about how you're starting to learn Korean now.
Oh yeah, you were saying it's really difficult. Same thing. I started this year. I
Yeah.
just knew like a couple of basic sentences when I went to Seoul. You know that'll just help me survive. But
Right.
it is so difficult to learn Hangul like that. So yeah, and then like sometimes you have that brain fart, right? Like your brain just like
Right.
blanks on like a
Right.
word that you want to use, and that happens with the artist when they're speaking to me in English. Same thing. They'll also
Right.
blank. So sometimes
It's also like so much more different when you're learning from a textbook and then you actually
mm,
go and speak in real life, because
yeah.
a lot of what we learn in a textbook is not what they use in their daily lives at all.
No. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
So
true.
it's just, you have to do a lot more like practice, a lot more research, watch a lot of these K dramas and all this, and just pick
That's
up
what helped
things.
me. K
Yeah.
dramas and watching a lot of like you know like interviews or like Run BTS
Right.
variety shows, you know stuff like that. And you
Yeah.
watch it with the subtitles, and that actually helped me improve conversational skills a lot more than just learning it via an app or via a textbook. So, but it is I
Right.
think like it is a pretty difficult language to learn because you have to keep practicing or you
It is.
forget it. Like that's
Yeah.
the like
And
especially
there's
the
also
writing.
so many different ways of saying just one thing, which
Mm,
like I'm sure it happens in across languages,
yeah,
but it's just that much stronger in Korean. I don't know. Maybe it's
yeah.
just me because I'm like struggling to learn,
No,
so
but
I'm just
especially
pointing
because you
out
have the
things that are
honorifics, yeah, like you know, like when
right.
people just want to say the same
Right.
thing, there's like three different ways to say it to
Yeah.
three different people. So yeah,
Exactly.
so like I
And even the
totally get
honor
that.
fix is like if I'm talking to my boss, I have to say it in a different way, and if I'm speaking to his boss, then I have to say it a different way. It's
Absolutely. Oh my
insane.
god. But yeah, so there's no escaping that
Yeah.
there will be some things that are lost. there's no escaping
Yeah.
that. But what happens is a lot of like my writing depends on translators. They're so important because like and you need to go to trusted sources, or like of course if it's the artist team, you know that they're looking out for the artist, so there will probably not be any errors over there, so you like trust them, in that sense. But like especially like song lyrics, things like that, if the artist team can't send it to me, or if it's not available on YouTube captions or anything, I have to depend on like the like online, something like Genius, or I have to depend on like
Okay.
the color coded lyric videos. And
Yeah.
then you're really dependent on fellow fans actually, which is so
Right.
interesting. Like it comes full
Yeah.
circle because you're writing for fans, but you're also dependent on them for things like this, people who are putting in that effort and to do these
Yeah.
translations. Yeah, so you got to trust translators, and it's very difficult, I would say, to find really like um, consistently regular, accurate translators.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. But yeah, I guess now we know how difficult your job is.
Yeah, yeah. Language
It's
barrier is
really tough.
definitely tough. Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah. Okay. But like even looking back through like all of the articles that you put out throughout over the period of I think 5 years, if I'm not wrong,
Yeah,
with Rolling Stone India.
almost 5 years. Yeah, at
Almost
least I
five
was.
years.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It felt like a very gradual shift from
Mm.
the Indian independent scene to K-pop. Was
Yeah.
that like a conscious effort and a conscious decision to move in that direction? And like, why, if it was, did you face any resistance from your colleagues or from higher ups while you were doing that?
Mm. Initially, there was like I think when I first started writing about it in late 2016, early 2017, that time K-pop wasn't really as definitely wasn't as big as it is now, and it was not really something that a publication like Rolling Stone was interested in. Like even now, like it's not something the audience at that time. Like a lot of the time, our audience was like the metal crowd, the indie crowd,
Right.
so they weren't the audience for it. It would have to rely on drawing in a new audience. So then I think my editors were a little worried about that. It was like, will we find this audience in India? That was the fear. They never stopped me from writing something that I want to write about, which is really nice about Rolling Stone. You can write about whatever you want to write about, and
That's great. Yeah.
that's like incredible. But
Yeah.
yeah, like but they do have their like like fears where they're like, okay, like what if we do this, like it doesn't perform well.
Which are very valid fears.
Absolutely, I think any publication,
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of
Absolutely.
like when BTS also started becoming more famous, slowly more Indian publications started picking it up. And then I have a lot of
Right.
journalist friends in India who were also telling me about their struggle to pitch to their editors, who maybe are more focused on Bollywood and stuff, and are generally not even in the music industry, right? So they're a little bit more dismissive of like K-pop, and how the fight is even more on that end, to like push aside any sort of misconceptions about the genre, about the country, about the artists, and then write about it. And
Right.
also fit the publication style. So that's been like a major challenge, I think, for many journalists as India's scene is evolving. And I feel like at Rolling Stone, like I was very lucky that I didn't have a lot of resistance. And then once I put out, like the first interview I did was with Dean. Like he's the first Korean
Yeah.
artist I spoke to. So like
Right.
that did pretty well. But even then it was like, okay, maybe we'll do this as a once in a while thing. It wasn't like, okay,
Right.
like this is going to be a regular thing, because I hadn't even thought that there was like something like K-pop journalism at that point of time. And I was like, okay, like maybe I'll just do my regular thing at Rolling Stone, and then like once in a while like indulge my love for K-pop.
Right.
And then we did the interview with RM, and the way that blew up, and traffic, like you remember, like website shut down, it was like crazy.
Right.
And the way like the traffic was Indian, it was not like from America, it was not from Korea, it was not from anywhere, it was from India, it was from Pakistan, there was traffic from Nepal, desis, okay,
Amazing.
in the house, and that
Yeah.
shocked the hell out of us. And I feel like a lot of people, like K-pop fans in general, found each other at that point of time. That article was this iconic moment in Desi K-pop history where we all sort of realized, oh, okay, this is what we look like in terms of numbers. So that kind of like really showed my bosses some like solid factual numbers, because before I'd be like, oh,
Right.
K-pop is big, like trust me, but they didn't have numbers. So then this was like proof. So then we decided like, okay, let's increase the frequency. And then as our audience also increased, like the following for K-pop, like on Rolling Stone over the past couple of years, has become like massive. And I think like I
Right.
can say we are the leading publication for K-pop in India. And it's like, we know what the audience wants now, which is why like over the past year, like we know like how much more K-pop they are hungry for. And because I've
Right.
been able to contact more artists, travel to Korea, and provide these interviews as well, and because I was able to have these opportunities, that's why there's a jump, because as time has passed, there's an increase in consumerism of K-pop, consumption of K-pop, and that we are doing our best to sort of like fill that in, like, because as even companies are noticing an increase in coverage, they reach out to me with artists saying like, oh, do you want to talk to this artist, do you want to talk to that artist, which is amazing. Like I am not
Yeah.
alone having to run after them, like anymore, which is really, really nice. Like Lay happened because he reached out, he wanted to talk, which was
Really?
yeah,
That's
it blew my,
amazing.
yeah.
Oh my
That was, I
God.
think, for me like a big tick in the bucket list, like the fact that,
Bucket list, yeah.
yeah, because he's my EXO bias. So I was like, what?
Really?
So
Oh,
yeah. So suddenly, like, because I had done
that's
a
amazing.
small piece about him on Rolling Stone, and his team found it, and they reached out and said, like, Lay wants to speak. He wants to do this interview. So like that was, and since then, like lots of artists and their teams have reached out on their own, which is just beautiful because they notice India's potential.
Right. And like this entire journey, I feel like a good culmination of that was with the 80s video,
Yeah.
which is just, I think, God level content for 80s.
Thank you.
Like I remember, I see it every time I have like banana chips at home, and I'm like, I want to share this with Mingy right now. So
Oh
let
my
me just
God,
turn this
I
video on real
swear.
quick.
I'll never see a
I
packet of
love
Lemon
that
Hearts and
video.
milk.
Oh my God! Listen, me looking at Hajmola and just like losing it because of
Oh
it's
God.
just
The Hajmola thing was so
right.
funny because, like, when
It really was.
I was explaining to them before the video what it is. I was like, I can't explain to you. I told them, like, I can't explain the ingredients to you because you won't know what this stuff is. But all I
Right.
can tell you that it's like a little bit spicy, and it's like kind of like, like sour. So, and it's like not something that you just snack on, but like something you have after meals.
I
And they
mean,
were
some
like,
people do. I don't hold it against them.
I don't
Some people
know.
snack
Some
on
people
Hajmola.
do it. Some people do it. I would not do that. Like I wouldn't just snack on a bottle of Hajmola. You know what I mean? Like oh, instead
Right.
of banana chips, you pick up Hajmola. No. But at the same time, it was really funny because my team also, and I think a lot of fans were like, let's punk them a little bit. And I was like, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. But like I had to make sure with their team though, like, okay, this is fine, that I can feed them spicy stuff and all. It's okay. So then the team also is so funny because KQ was like, do it. Like just go for it. It'll be hilarious.
That's amazing.
Just have fun with these boys. So then like they even after it all wrapped up and everything, I think like in between even Jongho ate one off camera and really
Okay.
suffered. So that was like beautiful, I think, and then like Hongjung and Yosang like refused. They were like, no, we're not doing this. So yeah, but
Listen,
then
Hongjoong has enough on his plate as the leader. He doesn't need like digestive issues.
no, he's got enough problems.
No, he doesn't. He's got enough problems.
Hongjung has enough on his plate.
He
He
has
needs to
enough.
terrorize him, yeah, with Hajmola. But
Yeah.
that video was a lot of fun to shoot, and I think it was like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
first of its kind, where like we finally
Yeah.
managed to do Indian food with K-pop stars. I think a lot
Yes.
of fans sort of like, that's like for Desi fans, for me too, right? It was like a fantasy, like you want to feed K-pop stars
Yeah.
your food and introduce them to your culture. So that's like another
Right.
big motivation for me, like why I do this, because I want to introduce them to
Yeah.
India. Like I want to be like,
Yeah.
we exist, our culture exists. Please learn and educate yourself about it, because a lot of them
Yeah.
like get very surprised that they have fans in our country, and I'm like, why? There's like 1 billion people. Hello, like obvious, like what? Do you really think like this was J Park? I have a big problem with, because I was like, he's like, oh, do I got fans on India? He tweeted, and I was like, what I literally met AOMG like a few days before he tweeted that, so I don't know what he was saying. But yeah, that's the funniest thing. The shock on their faces when I say, "Oh, you're popular in India," and they're like
Really?
blank.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
remember watching like your experience meeting AT's video like on
Mm.
your YouTube. And when I got to that part where you said, "Oh yeah," Hongjin was like, "Do we have fans in India? Like, can we plan a concert?" I was like, "Duh, of course we have fans in India. What are you talking about?"
It's
But
so
yeah,
funny.
that
Yeah.
video is like, wow, congrats, Riddhi. I wish I had your life because
One day.
because I mean,
Yeah.
that entire video is just, hey, I'm best friends with ATs. Hi, guys. I'm best friends.
Oh,
And
but
I
I
love that.
swear, thank you. Thank you for watching that. That's really sweet of you. They're just like really nice, genuinely nice people.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because like after
Like, this
I
is me. Anytime I even think about ATs, I'm just like, my
I
babies.
know it's
Such
a very
good boys.
heartwarming
They're the
feeling.
best boys.
It's like, you know,
Yeah.
they say don't meet your idols. I would say meet your K-pop idols. Like they will,
That's a nice
every
thing to say, yeah.
experience, yeah, has been absolutely lovely. Because I think even in Korea, even with the like actually the hip hop artists and everything, there is a culture of being very polite and nice. I think like even in India we are similar. There's like that whole culture of like, you know, like just being decent, I guess, when you meet someone for the first
Yeah.
time or whatever. Like socially, like we're very similar that way. So when you initially meet K-pop stars, like what's fun is if it's a group, they'll do their whole like, oh, 8 makes one team. You know, they'll do that whole
Yeah.
thing about you. Like, yeah, like it's really cool. And at first, it's really formal, but then as they relax, I think like K-pop stars have a lot of energy. They are also trained to be really peppy and happy, so that also kicks in. You know, so generally their entire interaction with press and fans is unlike any other form of
Yeah.
artist because they also put in a lot of effort to make sure that they don't come across as standoffish, that they don't come across as,
Right.
you know, that they don't give you a bad experience. Like I think that's
Yeah.
because K-pop is an experience, right? Like even when you go for a
It
fan
is.
sign
Yeah.
or you meet them, so it's like
Yeah.
they are aware of every single moment that you are with them, whether you're in the audience at a concert or whether you're meeting them like for a interview or something. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's really funny that you bring up the fan artist relationship in
Mm.
K-pop because we've seen, fandom culture. We've seen it in the West. We've seen like big buyouts and we've seen, these fandom wars like Believers versus Directioners or whatever. We've seen it all. But there's
Yeah.
something about like K-pop fandom that is like unique, you
Yes.
know, in a way it's pretty different from anything we've seen in the West or maybe even
Mhm.
in India for that matter. But because you have like all of these people, all of these fan groups, fan clubs organizing like big birthday projects,
Yeah.
and they donate huge sums of money. Like you have idols on like Burj Khalifa, and it's like things you've not heard of ever, right?
Times Square,
It's
right? Like it's
right,
absolutely,
and
yeah,
it's
unknown. I've been in fandom
yeah,
culture since I was like a kid, right? Like because for me, music has always been a massive part of my
yeah,
life. So various bands I've been involved in fandoms and fan culture and voting and all of that stuff. But it's never been a movement like K-pop. I think like especially Army and like I think, but in general
right,
K-pop, it's about I think giving back what the artist gives to you because I think
yeah,
it has a lot to do with how much of an effort the artists put in and fans feel I
exactly,
think appreciated and it's a very positive space to be in, you know. It's like I think like a lot of the time like people think it's like an obsession or something like that, but it's more about, I mean, largely from what I've seen, it's more about having a place where you are not considered a freak or you're not considered weird, and like your fandom are people who are in the same boat as you, right? So
yeah,
there is also a similar idea of your ethics and your morals. So you know you want to maybe like do something like you want to show how much this artist has done for you in your life by maybe doing something like the Times Square billboard for them or like
right,
putting up posters of them here and there or like you know donating tons of like food or like to charities in their name. I mean like
yeah,
it's because you know that the artist cares which makes you care, and I think can also shape you into becoming a better person. That I think is very unique. Where like usually it's the artist who alone shapes you into a better person, but here the fandom plays a massive role in that because you're all so connected on projects. Yeah. That's so unique about it.
But like that's also not to say that like there's no negative aspects to it as well. Of course there are.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I mean, that's with every fandom. Like, I mean, what fandom have I not been cancelled by? Oh my goodness. But, or any other journalist or anyone, like, at most public figures, like, who are, if you have a blue tick or whatever, like, or if you have a massive, like, following on any social media platform.
Blue tick is just like an invitation. Yeah, come attack me.
Hate me.
I have a verified thing.
Yeah, like, come and, like, you know, like, destroy my life. My God. But it's just generally anybody who puts their identity out on a platform, because a lot of the time, like in a thing about fandom culture, especially that's developed now, is with K-pop and has then exploded into the other fandoms as well, is using the picture of an idol's face and using like names that aren't really your own to say whatever you want on the internet. So a lot of people misuse that, you know, like this is like it was created for fans to be themselves, but ironically they're using it to sort of destroy that very idea where you don't let people be themselves. So it's like so it's like a very I think that the idea, but that's generally an idea of anonymity and sitting behind a screen and becoming a keyboard warrior. It's the concept of trolls just now spilling into a fandom, any fandom. So so you can't escape the negativity of that side of it. Like no matter who you are, or even if you're a fan of like even an Ariana Grande or a Justin Bieber, like even a Metallica, like it doesn't matter. Like BTS to Metallica, like the range of artists, like whichever fandom you're in or you're not in, if you have some sort of following count, if you have an opinion the fandom in general doesn't agree with, you can be like cancelled, attacked, doxxed. This is stuff that just is, I think, a part of social media culture now.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. But, you know, someone said to me that, like, in K-pop, the fandom is the best PR for the group. And I agree with that so much. It's like, you know, just in terms of, like, how for a really long time, K-pop was just, oh, K-pop fans are, like, really aggressive. That's how it is for most of, like, local Twitter or whatever. That's how most of, like, you know, people who are not in the K-pop fandom see K-pop fandom as like these really aggressive people who will, you know, do anything to fight for their idols. But just in relation to that, Shivangi Jain has put up a question where she says, how do you remain objective when critiquing K-pop when so much of K-pop fandom culture is about standing artists? This is in the question. I feel like there are very few reviewers who enjoy K-pop but can also objectively critique it.
It's difficult to put your emotions aside, and like for example when I write about BTS like or ATs, these are like my alt groups, or G-Dragon who is my ultimate artist, you know, so like it is very difficult to put aside your emotions, but if you are a journalist that shouldn't matter, especially if you're a music journalist. This is I think like again like no matter what I would cover, if I love the artist I need to put aside my emotions or something. You can't completely cancel it out because music journalism in general is very objective. Like it's like so it's like very difficult to you know like sort of make sure that everybody will like agree with your opinion. That's not possible in music journalism. I think in any
like anywhere.
Like any like creative content, you know, like because it is I think like in like so opinion based in general. So you either have the option of like if suppose you don't like something that your favorite artist has done, like you can't like fear the fandom or fear criticism in that sense. Like you still have to put out as a journalist what is your opinion of that thing. That doesn't mean the fandom has to agree, that doesn't mean the artist has to agree. No, this is just like one person's take on maybe one particular song or one album. So it's like, you know, very very difficult, like I think for because when I was on the fan side of things before I became a journalist, I used to get mad too. Like if there's like some like there'd be a lot of time, you know, journalists who talk shit about my favorite group, Tokyo Hotel. I used to love them, and
Okay.
they were
Oh,
very emo, very.
Tokyo Hotel was like center of controversy. Everyone had an opinion on Tokyo Hotel.
Everybody had an opinion on Tokyo Hotel. I was like, I don't need you to talk about my band. Like, leave, you know.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's natural, yeah, to get very
It is
defensive,
absolutely.
especially if a band has, you know, like really saved your life, like they did for me. And then like there's some journalist calling Bill Kaulitz the front man just a prissy little girl, and I'm like, he's.
Mhm.
Why do you only see that, you know? So, but
Yeah,
at the same time, like that's that journalist's way of growing up and the life experience he has had. I, as much as I can try, I can't cancel that out. Like no matter what
right.
I do, you know. So it's like I think that should be something that is allowed, as long as it doesn't get too personal, or it doesn't get like isn't a direct attack on an artist where they can see it, and remains like a critique of their art itself. Like I wouldn't attack
Yeah,
like an artist's appearance, or like, you know, like I wouldn't attack maybe their personal life choices. But if someone
right.
is like delivers a low grade album, I will talk about that, because their job
Yeah,
is to give us music, right? Like it is my job to
yeah,
write about it and
yeah,
report
exactly.
on it.
Yeah,
Because if they want a
yeah,
glowing review, they get very happy if I give you a glowing review. So
yeah,
but you can't take the criticism when you have not delivered top content. Then
yeah,
it's like you can't have it both ways, you know.
yeah.
So it's like,
No,
so
absolutely.
even fans, I think it's difficult for fans to understand that.
Yeah.
Artists will understand it
I
better,
think
I
it's just
believe.
human culture to like take it
Yeah,
very personally when someone attacks like the thing that you like.
yeah,
But
yeah. And I
I guess it's part of
understand
the
that.
job. It can't be helped. Yeah.
You can't, and then like,
Of course, as a fan, of course,
hmm,
get it.
we get it. We're all fans. We are in our
Yeah.
jobs because we are fans, right? Like that's what we, I think, sort of motivated those of us who are in the music industry and writing about the music industry. The reason I'm a music journalist is because I was a fan first, and then I wanted
Right.
to, yeah, I wanted to give artists a platform, you know, to like talk about their work. So that's why I became a journalist. And the thing is, like, it's very difficult when you are on the other side now, and then so you get attacked by fans, because you're like, how do I explain to you that I know where you're coming from, but also I
Yeah.
can't deviate from what I believe in, you know?
Right.
It's such
Yeah.
a difficult, because I can't really go on Rolling Stone's handle and be like, I'm sorry, but because Rolling Stone is not, it's a news platform,
Yeah.
it's a publication, so we can't apologize for choices and things like that. So reviews, I mean, that's the whole point of and because like the reason publications like NME, Rolling Stone, Billboard, they're so
Yeah.
coveted, their covers like coverage from them is so coveted, is because of that honesty that the journalists have, that because the journalists are hard to please. It's like, you know, not like if it was just a publication constantly saying like good things and like buttering you up, over
Yeah.
time it's just gonna get
It
like a
doesn't
drag. You're
feel
not
like
gonna take them
genuine.
seriously. Yeah, you're gonna be like,
Yeah.
oh, they're just like buttering me up, they're not really giving me a
Yeah.
critique on my
Exactly.
work. So it doesn't
Yeah.
become a goal to please Rolling Stone, you know what I mean? Like that's like a lot of artists are like, I want to be on the cover because, and this artists have told me this, where it's like the
Okay.
dream is to be on the cover of Rolling Stone, because you know that you have done something for that, especially our US team, for them to notice you, that you have made a
Right.
difference, you know? So I
Right.
think like
Yeah.
artists also sort of like will understand it, but it is so difficult for fans to understand that same thing, which I also get. I
Right.
totally, yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Absolutely. Well, I think about 75 of all of the questions that we received for you today were
Whoa.
just about, can Riddhi please talk about her college and what she did after college and
Oh
how
my
she
God.
ended up at Rolling Stone. So I think people will actually murder me in the comments if I don't ask you to like fully explain in detail how you ended up at Rolling Stone. Like, where did this love of writing come from? Were you in like your school newspaper? Did you work there? What was,
uh,
all of like your academic and professional experiences? Let's hear it, Riddhi.
okay.
Let's do it.
Wow. Wow. Where do I start? I've always loved writing. So like since I was a kid, since I was like maybe even 10, you know, like I've just loved writing because I
Okay.
loved reading. and it was just like I just wanted to like write my own, like whether it was short stories or whatever, or I wanted to write about my, it started as wanting to write about my feelings about a particular song or something. Like if I saw a video or something, I wanted to write how I felt about it. So that started when I was like maybe like 12 or 13, and that was because I'm also super into literature and I'm really into history and like an analytical writing, you know, because I did IGCSE. So they allow you
Oh,
to, yeah, they really allow you
okay.
to expand and write whatever you want. Like the IGCSE thing is, if you can prove your point, you write what you want. Like, you suppose
That's
you want to
amazing.
say something ridiculous. So, like, what's the most ridiculous thing I can think of? Oh, what Hitler did was justified. Okay.
Oof.
And you prove your point through historical facts, they'll give you marks for it. It's crazy. It's not like
Well,
rote learning. So yeah, like I mean, not
yeah.
that I agree with Hitler
But I
yet,
actually like really love
but
that.
it's
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, it
it
allows
is.
the examiners like it. The more out of the box the student thinks, and they give you marks for
Mm-hmm.
that. So you do a lot of research that is based on like a lot of outside sources. You do additional reading, not reading that is prescribed to you, so that you can use more
Right.
evidence and prove yourself. And so that really puts you in school, you know, like to read up and do
Okay.
research and things like that. So IGCSE really really does help, like for your boards, you know, because you
Okay.
develop a more open mind and style, like you know, like you'll be able to
Right.
absorb more information, because I think like the Indian systems are a little bit based on rote learning, which didn't
Yeah,
agree with
definitely.
me. Yeah, it's so boring. It's just boring. Like
It is.
students should be allowed to do what they want to do. So that
Yeah.
syllabus allowed me to do it and expand on my skills like grammar, you know, all that kind of stuff, and then like the ability to write a lot. That was like, cause like the questions are all like, there'll be a 20-mark question and it's an essay, you know, so like that's your paper. So like I
Right.
just would, in a limited amount of time, writing huge essays, things like that. So yeah, so that kind of really honed my skills. College
Okay.
wise, I went to Christ University. I would not recommend going to Christ University. Please don't go there.
Okay.
Don't set foot there. Don't go there.
Hope you're
It's
all
just
taking notes,
hard.
guys.
Don't go there. No.
Okay. It's a very
Yeah.
strong opinion.
I
Okay,
mean, it's
great.
just an
Duly noted.
opinion. It's just my advice, but I will say don't go, because
That's what we're here for.
yeah,
That's what we're here for.
like I think like for certain streams, like maybe psychology or maybe like you know commerce and stuff, it's better. But for
Yeah.
arts and all, no, because they were,
Okay.
again, what happened was after I did like the Cambridge boards, I got shoved into Christ, and like because my dad went there, he was like, "You're gonna go there," so I went. It's awful. And then like when I went, it was back to rote learning. Christ is so much about
Oh,
rote learning. So maybe it's just me, you know, maybe I couldn't adapt to it. And I just felt like, what is this? Like, I can't be myself completely. Although I did do journalism, psychology, and English. And then in my third year, I like sort of, what do you call it? Moved into English honors, and then there are like
okay.
multiple subjects under that which change every semester. So the reading is really
Right.
good, the examinations and the teaching is not that great. So like the materials that they
Okay.
give you is pretty okay. So like if you like reading and stuff, it's fine. But yeah, but that didn't have a lot to do with my career today, like the university, because I feel like
Okay.
no matter what you are, what stream you're in, a lot of publications, like especially like Rolling Stone, we don't look at uh, what you chose to pick as your major. For us, it's like what kind of
Right.
like material of your writing, examples of your writing, and your knowledge of music and pop culture. Like what do you have on hand to show us? So we will look at
Right.
things like when we look for candidates, we don't really give a shit like if they're doing like chemistry or microbiology or English literature. It doesn't matter as long as you have the knowledge required for like music and pop culture, especially in India. And a lot of the time, what helped me get into Rolling Stone was when I was I wanted to work with Rolling Stone since I was like 14. Like that was my dream. I wanted to work with Rolling
Yeah.
Stone. And I,
Yeah.
at that point in time, I started blogging about music. Just, it was really bad writing. I just wanted to get my feelings out. So I started doing that. But then over the years, I built like a library of content, and my skills like developed and got better, you know.
Right.
And when I graduated college, I actually started working with a PR company, and it was so
Okay.
not what I wanted to do. Good experience, but like not a long-term thing for
Yeah.
me. But my dad ran into so random. He ran into the editor-in-chief of Rolling Stone at some jazz gathering, okay. And then when the editor-in-chief, now my boss, like introduced himself, my dad was like, "Oh, like here's my daughter's music blog. Just have a look and see like what
Oh
you
my
think."
God.
Like he just gave him the link
Oh
to
my
it.
God.
It was crazy. It was like I can't. It was like fate, you know. And
Yeah.
so then he gave it, and like months passed. Nobody, like, you know, he just mentioned I met the editor, and that was it. Like nothing happened.
Right.
Months later, I had quit my job and everything, and then I was like wondering what to do. And I got an email from Rolling Stone saying like, "Oh, like, do you want to come in and like talk?" You know. So then I
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
okay. So then when I went over, and I thought they wanted to talk about PR. I don't know why I thought that. Like my brain was like, whatever. But then I went, and then halfway through, I realized that the editor-in-chief was interviewing me. And I was like,
Oh my God.
oh. And then he was like, yeah, like I found your
Wait, how
blog
did
and
you
stuff.
realize that? What did he ask you? When
I
did it
don't know,
finally
like
hit?
he asked something like, but like, you know, I realized that you write a lot about you know, like at that point I was writing a lot about American pop. So he was like, so
Right.
how would you sort of, you know, like, would you be able to adapt to the fact that we cover so much more indie, like
Mm.
local, right, like stuff. And I was like, what? So then it hit me that he's literally talking about like, job wise, would you be able to handle and do it the same way for indie artists like you do for international ones? And then I was like,
Right.
oh my god. And then he just said, yeah, like just like we'd love to have you on board like from Jan
Oh
onwards.
my God.
That was crazy. That interview was in December, and like in Jan, like I joined. It was just
Oh my God.
fate. It was absolute fate. It was I thank my lucky stars, like I thank my past self
Yeah.
for starting that blog. So because that's
Right.
what like convinced them to you know, like actually call me in. And then I thank my
Right.
dad and his quick thinking to have given the link,
Yeah.
you know, because that was crazy. Like I was shocked that he managed to do it. But
Oh my
he,
God.
yeah, I was like, whoa, like thanks so much, dad. And like fate, I guess,
Yeah.
like little Riddhi. But things really come full circle. So if you are looking to work at Rolling Stone, like you have to, we will focus on the bank of knowledge that you have about the subject that you want to write in. Like your
Right.
degree and stuff isn't that important. Like we'll usually see if you're a college graduate or if you're going to intern with us if you're currently in college, you know, and that your course will allow it, meaning that there's no objection from the college's side. But other than
Mm-hmm.
that, like if you can deliver and you can like bring something new to the table, we don't, there's no really, I think I would speak for many different publications as well, that you know, there's no really any discrimination based on the course you choose. So just keep
Okay.
practicing your writing and like increase your knowledge of global pop culture. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's very good advice. I hope everyone noted it down
Oh, I hope that was
because
enough. Yeah.
wow, like if I could show you like my spreadsheet and just all of the green marked in green
Oh
is
my
just
god.
can we know about her graduation, her post graduation. I hope you guys all saw that and noted it down. Okay,
Yeah.
let's go into some fan questions now
Yeah, sure.
because there's some really interesting ones. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Let's see. The first one is from Shia, who asks, "How would you handle a hostile or an uncooperative interviewee?"
It's happened.
Like, say, yeah, has this happened?
It's happened.
Really?
See, they won't be it's not happened where they've like been hostile in the sense like abused me or
Right.
anything like that. But it's been where they're very closed off. They're very closed off.
Mm-hmm.
Where like they don't feel like answering a question that day. Maybe they, something about their day has gone bad and they just don't want to do this.
Right.
But the thing is, I think in general, to avoid this is on the PR team. like it's really on the PR team to like not overschedule interviews with an artist in one day. But then sometimes like they can't help it either. Schedules like it's crazy how much like if like I have seen the schedules of artists, like many K-pop artists, C-pop artists. Like I have luckily been privy to documents of schedules so that I can also slot in my time. They don't have time to
Right.
breathe. So I understand, like you're moving from airport, then you go for sound check, then after sound check you go for fittings, you do dress rehearsal, you do like you meet your dancers, you eat something, then you go do your press interview. Like the day is endless, and this is like any artist, you know. So sometimes like you can't control that. You don't know what mood the artist will arrive in. So you have to also then gauge like, okay, like is this going a certain way? And usually you work
Right.
in tandem with the PR person and eye contact. Like the PR person will
Yeah.
like subtly from behind the artist be like, don't ask that. Like, you
Okay.
know, and then like you'll also get like they're there to help you as well. So like
Right.
if you ask something and then the PR person and the artist is visibly like annoyed by it, or like the PR person is like just like that, then you shut that down. You just be like, but anyway, let's not talk about that. Like, what do you want to talk about? You immediately like like push it onto them a little bit,
Okay.
and try not
Okay.
to ask too many questions. Then you have to read the room and be like, maybe I can ask 3 questions and get out if they're pissed off. Like sometimes you will lose out like on the time you have with an artist, but I think
Yeah.
it's better to do that rather than lose out, like then piss them off and lose out on that relationship with the artist and their team.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
definitely like
Because you also have to think in terms of like the material that you have to like finally make your article, right?
sorry.
So, but then you also have to think about like how much
Yeah.
material you're going to end up using for your article. So, how would you like
So sometimes it doesn't
salvage
work out.
any?
Sometimes
It
it doesn't work
doesn't?
out.
Okay.
Like there is one of the K-pop groups I interviewed, and I won't tell you which one, but it was a horrible
Okay.
interview, and it wasn't because they were
Really?
mean. No, no, no. It was because, or they weren't like it wasn't their mood or anything. It was because of the connection. I think they were really tired, so they were quieter than usual. So it was just a terrible interview. I didn't even want to publish that interview, but over time through research and writing and things like that, um, can you tell which interview that was? It's already published. If you read
I
them
don't
all,
think so.
I will be shocked if you can find the interview that went disastrously. So
Really?
sometimes
You
like,
know what?
yeah,
I'm gonna DM you about it.
yeah,
Just so
DM
we
me.
don't have it right here.
Seriously, DM
Okay.
me. And like,
Okay.
I mean, a clue is it's a group, but like it wasn't even their fault. It was just like I think mostly the connection of Skype was really shit. So it
Okay.
got us both a little bit, like sad. I think it was just like a little bit like, oh, I can't hear you, so you get frustrated. So but then like so yeah, so I didn't have that many quotes, but at the same time I was like, you shift gears then to talk about the work as much as possible. Talk about the album, talk about the song they released, talk about the activities that they've been up to, maybe other things that they've done, maybe like how their tour went. So if you don't have
Yeah.
like lengthy quotes or a good conversation, write more about the content that the artist has produced. I feel like that's the best way to
Right.
go. But if you're in a room and things go wrong, get out as soon as you can. Like, just be really polite.
Yeah.
No matter what the artist does, you don't lose your temper. Don't lose your
Right.
temper. Don't lose your cool, because sometimes get like one time there was a really massive EDM artist who made me and my team wait for 7 hours backstage at Supersonic
What?
for an interview. 7 hours backstage. And because of
That's
that,
insane.
it was crazy. And because of that, we couldn't cover the rest of the festival, and it was so
Oh,
frustrating. But and then at the end, like that artist did not even give an interview.
what?
Yeah, this stuff happens all the
Oh,
time. It'll happen all the time, and you can't like lose your cool. Like you can't like get pissed off. You can't like whatever, because then it breaks bridges. Like between
right.
you and the artist team, maybe you and the venue. Like for example, us and Supersonic, and like because you also think about your publication's reputation.
Yeah.
You can't just go and be
Right.
like,
Right.
oh, like screw this. I don't want to do this anymore. Work with you anymore. you can't do that, because like in the future you might leave the publication and then your junior who will replace you will see hell. So you have to think about all of these things. Or like Rolling Stone might develop a reputation of like being standoffish or something, which we don't want, you know. So yeah, but so you remain calm, try to change the topic if they get like pissed off at a certain question. Keep the, if they're looking pissed, like keep the questions very light. But also the best way of getting an artist to open up to you is putting down questions that are unique. Do your research,
Right.
read their interviews that they've done recently, like in the past 2 weeks or something like that. Read and see what questions are repeated. And this is something that artists are tired of. They answer the same questions
Yeah.
interview after interview after interview. So I've had almost every artist I have spoken to has said the question, has said the words, that's a really good question. For me, that's a
That's
point
fantastic.
of
Yeah.
pride. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my god,
Yeah.
I have achieved, you know, like what a moment this is. So like when they say that, their mood also
Yeah.
improves a little bit. They're like, oh, I've not been asked that before. And then you smile, you stay positive, and sometimes your energy might encourage them also to smile, and maybe they'll feel, oh, like, okay, maybe I should be nice, you know. So but
Right.
again, you never know how they can react to something, because they're human beings too and their schedules are
Yeah.
mad. So yeah, so work in tandem with the PR team. Keep your energy and mentality as positive and polite as possible. Change topics if you feel something's disastrous, and do your research and ask really unique questions. Like that is key.
Yeah.
I would say this is my tips.
Yeah. Yeah. I think most importantly, just knowing when to quit is
Yes.
yeah.
Don't worry about it, because
Know
sometimes,
when to
you know,
quit.
like
Yeah.
the PR team will feel bad because they'll be like, oh, we're so sorry that that happened. This has happened so many times where, like, you know, you get like 2 minutes with an artist and the artist will be like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And then they leave, you know. And then the PR team will come to you later and be like, I'm so sorry. Like, how do I make this up with you? And then, like, the next time when the artist is in a better mood, you do another
Yeah.
interview. Yeah. So don't sweat it. Don't worry. There's always going to be another
Yeah.
chance someday. Yeah. So, but if you get mad, you'll burn that bridge and you won't get that chance. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Next question is from Shreya, who asks, this is a big one, so I'm just going to take it one by one.
Yeah.
Since you've interacted with K celebs and seen what their routine life looks like from a small angle, you may have also interacted with regular Korean people. Is that true? Yeah.
Yeah.
How does the usual Korean person see K-pop? Do they speculate about the shortcomings of the industry, like just how we sort of do with our own? Is that something that you see happening a lot?
Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's just like how we do it. Same thing.
Yeah.
Like a lot of my Korean friends are musicians themselves, and like they're not in the
Okay.
K-pop industry exclusively. They're in the hip hop industry. They're in the rock like scene in Korea, which isn't that popular, you know. So sometimes, depending, like so some rock artists might have a bit of resentment towards K-pop because they kind of view it as like the Bollywood. You know how Bollywood is viewed here, like the dominant force
Right.
in the music industry. So K-pop is also kind of viewed in that sense, like the commercial, mainstream, dominant, all across the charts. So it's not a negative thing, but it's just facts. Like this is the dominating thing, and then you have a lot of musicians who are slipping under the radar and like under the scope of like discovery because of K-pop. Same with our indie scene, like because of Bollywood,
Yeah.
it gets erased at times, right?
It
So it's
does.
very similar, yeah. So normal Korean people will also like, it's not mandatory that they'll also be into K-pop. Same way, like you might not like Bollywood films, they might not be into K-pop. They might just know like famous artists like a BTS, Blackpink, Twice. They'll know these people, but they won't really know anything beyond that. So to assume every Korean person
Right.
is into K-pop or knows about K-pop is total don't do that. But like if like they might be really into artists you've never heard of. Also, the
Right.
Western music scene is really popular in Korea too, like it is in India.
Okay,
Same
it's
thing.
giving me like the 15-second like
Oh.
warning. So I'll just end this one and then we can start all over
Yes.
again because I have a lot
Okay,
left to ask you. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
so funny. It didn't give me.
See you
that
guys in a bit. Yeah.
See you in a bit.
It didn't. Okay.